Let's go. So, hi everyone. Thank you very much, Billy and John, for being here today. So, today we're going to have a awesome workshop led by Billy from APO3, and we are going to do a live coding, or let's say live session. And for everyone who doesn't know what DevTools session is about, basically this is made by Builder for Builders. So we all been builders here. We all know the struggle. We know that it's the best is to show you how to do it and how to use all the stuff we have. And on Mantle is even better, of course. So that's basically what's going to happen today. And all this recording is live, but you can find it also later on YouTube. Billy, do you want to tell us what we're going to do today?
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. Again, Billy, people know me on Twitter as Billy Jitsu for API3. API3 is not an API that you would call on a front end website. It's more of price feeds for your smart contract. Let me do the slideshow. I don't know. Can we make it bigger or is it big enough to go through it? Perfect. Okay, let me do my shill here. So real world data straight from the source. What does that mean? We are a first party Oracle solution for your smart contract, meaning that we don't handle third party. We're not a middleman. You get the data straight from where the APIs are coming from. So like CoinGecko, Coin Paprika, like they are hosting the data themselves and we are bringing it on there directly. We don't handle like a middle type of thing. So we are like the farmer's market, straight from the dirt right to your house, right, for data feeds. Okay. API3 services that we provide, we're not just a price feed, we are chain API. So the ability to bring any off-chain API and bring that on-chain. So like if you're hosting your own API or you like do sports, MMA, and you want to have like some kind of betting system, you can call that API, bring that data on-chain, and then settle everything on-chain. So like if we had a race today and we created an API, it's like, did Billy win or did he lose? People can bet against that. And then once that data is pulled on chain, it all gets settled. So you don't have to, hire your bookie or something. We have QRNG, which is random number generator, quantum random number generator. It allows you to receive true random numbers for gaming, lotteries, those kind of things on there. There's no token required, just the native gas. So you would just use Mount to do that. What we're talking about today is our DAPIs, decentralized APIs, as price feeds on chain, constantly live updated, which is called push oracles. We'll get to that in a little bit later, or ask away. And then our latest product, which will be on the next workshop, would be the OEV network, which is Oracle Extractable Value. It's a new concept. It allows users to bid for the ability to update that price feed. And so in the second workshop, we'll get really deep dive into that. But basically, you're kind of like MEV for price oracles.
Yeah, I'm very excited for all of these. All of these, yeah.
Yeah. So again, API3 team. I am the guy you'll probably be talking to all the time on the Discord or with the team or just general chat. At conferences, I'll be at ECC. This is my Twitter. If you follow my shenanigans, it's 50-50 technical, 50-50 nonsense. So, be warned on there. But just in case you want to follow me out there, go for it. And so it's a series of workshops. So like, I don't like doing the one and done. Hey, here's our oracles, and then peace. See you guys later. We want to show you how to become a searcher ultimately, how to utilize the stuff that we have on here, and then searchers make a good chain, have a really good source of economy. It's you perform liquidations, opportunity for all. So this is the first of 4 workshops. This one is going to be the fundamentals of API3, of basically getting a price feed to your smart contract, and then learning to use an adapter if your code base is different than what API3 has. Let's say you are forking Aave, or you're forking another code, or you have this code set for another Oracle and they don't have a price feed that you need, but we have that price feed. We're going to show you how to use our price feeds. Second workshop, which will be coming in probably a couple of weeks after ECC, we'll figure out a schedule for that, is going to be Oracle Extractable Value, understanding like how push oracles and pull oracles work, what's the difference, introduction to the OEV network, and then learning how to update an API3 price feed on the OEV network, and then update that on Mantle. Third workshop, which everybody gets excited for, is we're actually going to deploy Aave. We've created a CLI tool that will let you just run it through the command line that deploys all the contracts out. You're going to learn how to liquidate positions using the OEV network. So we're going to monitor the available positions, discover where the profits are, bid on the OEV network that we did in workshop 2, update that price, and then run a liquidation. This is probably going to be a third workshop. Like a third workshop is going to be like a workshop A, workshop B, because by default, you're going to learn how DeFi works, right? Like what are health factors, how to borrow, lend, and then how to execute those positions. And then the fourth workshop is flash loans, right? Like, oh, I know how to liquidate, but I don't have, $3 million to pay back this loan to make the profit. Well, that's where flash loans come in, where you can borrow against lending platforms for a little bit, become a millionaire for a block, pay back the loan, and then do some arbitrage, and then you have a little bit of profit. And then that's showing like the true potential of OEV, of how to become a searcher on there. All right. Enough
Very nice.
chit chatter.
Very nice. And before we keep going, just one thing is that, as you said, Billy, like this full workshop, they are, I mean, the first one is more of an introduction, but for everyone who's in the audience, it is not obviously expected that you know everything about oracles or API3 or anything like this. Like myself, I am very excited for the flash loan because obviously I have no clue how to do that. So like it's super important that if anyone has like question about like general question, conceptual question, not just technical question, just throw them in the chat, and we'll like, at the same time that we're trying to build, we'll try to actually understand some concept that sometimes might seem obvious to some of us who work in Web3 and in DeFi, but maybe not to you guys. So really don't hesitate, like write all your question, and if we don't see them on time, we'll try to get back to you anyway. So yeah, that's pretty much it for now.
Yes, please ask questions. Even the host asks questions. I can walk and chew gum at the same time, and if I mess up, we'll start over. No big deal. So today we're going to get a price feed to your smart contract. We're not going to use any framework. We're going to just use free Remix. So really easy to get started and start playing with this. So workshop breakdown today of how oracles work, Ethereum isolation, how we solve it, and then set up your smart contract. Really, really simple. It's like maybe 23 lines of code max, including the spaces. And then we're going to pick a feed in the marketplace and get a price. So what is an air node? Basically, Ethereum doesn't know what's happening outside of its own network, right? We have chains like Solana, we have chains like Bitcoin. They have no idea what's happening on any other chain. For those that used to play games, on Xbox Network or PlayStation, right? If you had a PlayStation, you couldn't play with anybody outside of PlayStation. If you had an Xbox, you can only play with your Xbox friends. And now we have this way we can do cross-platform play, right? Well, kind of think of it that way, where we have the Ethereum network that has no idea what the price of ETH is or what the price of wrap BTC is. And so externally, we know that. We see CoinGecko, we see exchanges. So how do we get that data from those exchanges onto the network? And that's where we have our air node system, where the hosts of the APIs have to host their own air node. So CoinGecko, CoinPaprika, they host the air node. We bring that data on chain aggregated. So then that data is then available to you to use. So then you know what the price of Ethereum is, so you can borrow against it, right? So anybody that can integrate against the REST API can use this information. That's where our chain API comes in as well. What are DAPIs? Decentralized APIs is we basically gather all the information. We aggregate that data. So Notary, DXFeed, FinHub, 12 Data, IXCloud, all these data providers that are hosting air nodes that partner with us, we aggregate that data, right? If you're getting it from one source and that source goes down, it will destroy all DeFi, right? Like, if ETH is $3,000 and then all of a sudden they report $1,000, chaos, right? Liquidations out the Yahoo, right? So we aggregate the data so we have multiple sources of truth. And then if one goes down, it's not a big deal because we get the medium average, right? So like if there's one acting nefarious or something happens with it, it's not disastrous.
Yeah, so you guys are using the medium of all of these decentralized oracles, right? But then using every other one as a kind of a backup in case one of them fails.
Oh, well, it's just basically the median average of everything. So like this is 3001, this is 299, this is 3000. Then okay, the price medium is $3,000.
How many hosts are on the network at the moment?
Oh, well, it depends on the price feed. It depends who's using the price feed directly on there. So we have a minimum that we want for that in order to be able to support that price feed.
Awesome.
Yeah. And these are pushed. So like these are continuously pushed over time. So like it's not like there's a deviation in price. So like when there's a change in price, that's when we update it. And then there's a certain threshold that we have that I'll explain a little bit later about, if there's a change in price of $10 or $20, that's when it gets updated on chain. Because if we were to do it every second on the second, that costs gas. Every transaction costs gas. So imagine, every second on the second, we'd be out of business in about a week. So there's certain limitations on that. For those that don't try to do this live coding right following me, there's a link to the example here. This is the QR code on there. This is the repo here. It is a full repo that you can fork and just start playing with it. I don't like dealing with like fumbling stuff. I even have a video companion too that explains this whole layout. So like I went complete and made sure that you have it all set. So like there's a YouTube thing right there. A complete readme. If it doesn't make sense, let me know, Billy, you messed up. It sucks. I will fix it. So it is ready to go for you guys, ready to use. I struggled when I was learning, so like I built it the way I wish I had it. So that's pretty much the way it's set.
That's probably the most accurate and relevant way, to be honest.
Yeah. And then if you want to join our Discord community, if you want to have like developer questions, or you want to expand certain things, or just general questions, I am in the Mantle dev chat as well. But if you want to check out things that are happening on API3, there's the QR code on that. But enough of that. I don't like PowerPoints. I don't like spreadsheets. I like to build stuff. So let's get right into building. Yes. Okay. So again, we're not going to use any frameworks. We're just going to go ahead and use Remix for this one. It's easy to get started. Anybody can go to remix.ethereum.org and get started. All you need is your wallet. So we're just going to build a contract right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new file and just call it pricefeed.sol. And I'm not going to do like empty typing. I'm going to copy paste stuff down so it could be more speedy, so you're not quietly watching me type certain things out here. So I'm just going to bring in our license identifier and our Pragma Solidity version. For those that don't know, I'm using 8.19 before the fork on there. I think it's the Shanghai fork. Some chains don't have push 0. So I made it universal for everything. So 8.19, push 0 was an issue for some chains. So this is universal across all of them. If Mantle or when Mantle supports push 0, you can use 8.24 and above. But for right now, to be safe, I'm using 8.19 until all changes are done. So just keeping that as a notification on there.
I believe we do actually, but good to be safe, I think.
Yeah. That way, like people don't ask me like 2 days later, hey, it doesn't work anymore. I'm like, yeah. And so we'll call this API3 price feed. And then let's go ahead and build our base contract, right? So there's a couple things that we need to do, and it's a really simple thing. Is we're going to bring in an import, and this import is just an import of interfaces. It's in the repo. It's basically bringing in this iProxy interface. It is not a inheritance, so you don't have to do is. It is just an easy way to get these interfaces without clogging up your repo, basically. So it's just an iProxy interface on there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set up our contract to basically tell the contract, this is the price we want to read, and then this is how we're going to read it. So we're going to set up a basic system. There's no need for a constructor on this one. I'm making it dynamic, so you can basically change the price feed for whatever you need. Oops. And so we're going to go ahead and create a public variable, and we're just going to call it proxy. And you guys can see this, right? It's a little big on my screen.
No, it's so good. I mean, we can see it well. It could go bigger, but we good.
Oops, hold on.
We're not that old.
Let me see. Let me go a little bit like that. It's okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm using like those kid games where like it's really large and blocky, or the senior citizen.
Yeah, or when your grandma is reading text, like everything.
Yeah. So this is just going to be the address of the price feed address. So we call it proxy address. Yep. We call all our price feeds proxies on there. So I'm just calling it proxy address. That's the reason for the naming. Okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring in our function. And it is a very, very simple function. Let me go ahead and move back this. And let me explain it. Let me get rid of that really quick. And so we're just calling it set proxy address. So set price feed. And then we're going to bring in the price feed that we want, which is the address, making it public so we can do it internally or externally. And then I'm just setting this global variable to that price feed address. Say if I want to use ETH USD or RAT BTC USD, Mantle. I keep saying Mount, MNT USD.
Yeah. Mantle, yeah.
I'm making it all interchangeable. And so now I'm going to bring in the next function here that actually reads the data here. And I'm going to break it down piece by piece. And so we have this function called read data feed. It is just a view. It's public, so we can read it internally or externally. And it returns two values. Both are UN256. The first one is going to be a value, which is basically the price feed or the price of the actual asset. So if it's ETHUSD, what is it, like 3,500? It'll bring in 3,500. One thing to note here, defaults, it does bring it in as int 224. That means it could be negative or positive on there. So I do a conversion for people that are using the tutorial to turn it into UN256 as a typecast on here. So that's just a quick converter to make that into UN256. And then we also have the timestamp. Timestamps are very important in price feeds because you need to know when that was last updated, right? If we haven't had a timestamp update in the last 24 hours, we don't know if that price is stale or not. So that's very, very dangerous. Like if all the oracles go down and then ETH is, 3,500 on chain, but it turns out to be 4,000, it takes off of the bull market, that's serious consequences. So you will want to make sure that the timestamp is being updated within a certain time frame on there. Mm-hmm. And then we just return that out for our price and our timestamp. So I have that nice and easy for UN256 for both users. So for the demo, I'm making it simple that we can have both UN256. If you want to use the initial value of int 224, you could. But for demo purposes and like a lot of examples that we see out there, it's just easier to use UN256.
Could you
go ahead?
Could you go back to why int 224 is fetched from the Oracle?
That's just the standard that we have on there, because numbers can go negative theoretically, but it doesn't work like that in Ethereum, right? You can't have negative numbers on there, but technically things can go negative on there. So yeah, so we have the initial value on there and that certain floating point limitations. So I just converted over, but there are certain repos that keep it in the natural int224 or other formats. So I'm just kind of showing you how to typecast that, so you can change your type over on there. And then we have this interface here for iProxy. That's our iProxy interface. That's just going to read the address that we set it. So whether that's ETHUSD or WrapBTC USD, Mantle USD, and it's just going to read the function on that contract called read. It's going to give us our data back. And that's it. That's pretty much it. What is it? 21 lines of code. Basically the import, the way to tell the contract what our price feed that we want to read. And then this is what we actually read it with, right? This one function right here that says read it and then return it. And this is just extra because I'm typecasting it, right? So let's go ahead and deploy this thing. And then one thing to note, guys, there is a hard fork happening on Mantle Network.
Yep.
And
on
so
on the 10th of July.
Yes. And for some reason it's not picking up. Let me just refresh this really quick. So I'm doing everything on mainnet. So real money, but
yes.
Real money, but still cheap.
Do not, for whoever, do not text the DevRel to send you real money. Like it's not gonna fly, guys. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean we will have it.
Yeah, it's so cheap. You might as well use mainnet for testing.
Yeah, it's actually pretty cheap. Yeah, to be honest. So
it's true.
Pretty soon, don't quote me on this depending on when the video comes out, but maybe like in a week or two, we'll have the testnet live up and running. But let's go ahead and deploy this right on mainnet.
All right.
So 0.04 mount, like it's super cheap.
Okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Send me the wallet address. We'll reimburse you.
No worries, no worries. I'm actually a heavy Mantle user. We support Mintrust, Init, a couple other feeds on there. I was there, I have a Citizens of Mantle NFTs. I have a few of those. I got my hats, So like, I got the mount. I got it.
It's a mess as well, right? So,
yeah. So we have our contract deployed. And so I'm just going to go ahead and expand it, make sure it's nice and easy. So we see that we have our set proxy address function. So we want to set our price feed, the proxy address, which has nothing, and then the ability to read our feed. So we're going to say, okay, our contract's ready to read a feed. We just don't know which one. We're going to head over to market.api3.org, where you can see where we have all our chains that we support, everything available. We're going to search. Well, let me step back. I'm doing it on mainnet. Once we have everything on testnet, you can see all the testnets that are equivalent to it. Right now, because of the hard fork, we don't have Mantle on there. Yep. So let's go ahead and go into Mantle. And so you'll see that here, ID 5000.
Nice.
And here you can do a sneak peek. You can type in what you're looking for. You can do ETH. You see that we have a bunch of things here. We have LSTs, so it's really whatever you're looking for. So I'm just going to stick with ETH USD. And then you see that our feed is live. Oh man, 3,100. We're just we're dumping live.
Yeah. I think it's fast.
Yeah. So you can see that this is the current price feed that API3 is providing for you. You can see all the sources here. Right here is Chain Paprika, so Coin
And
Paprika. This is the price that they're providing. Go ahead.
Yeah, the front end guy doing well.
Oh yeah. You can see this is the price feed. So you can verify each one of these by verifying the DNS. Everything is traceable on chain. You can verify every price feed. So if something looks weird, you can always prove it all on chain. That's what I love about the openness of the way we do it.
Yeah.
So you can see how it's all being aggregated on chain. So they're all fairly close, and we basically aggregate that data to give you the final price on here.
Yep.
So I have a question here. So go ahead, June. So let's say you have one of the price, one that doesn't work, one goes down. How do you guys handle it? Is it like, is it something in the contract that says, okay, this one, for instance, the timestamp is not correct? Like there's something that is showing that it's not being updated in the last, I don't know, 24 hours. Like, how do you guys notice this? Like, and does it happen often? That's my question.
Security is like our number one thing, right? Because like if an Oracle goes down, like it's basically ruins your reputation. So we have two factors. We have, AI bots that monitor everything. We have real people that are monitoring price feeds 24/7. It's like, when do these people sleep? we have a whole team of people monitoring. We have fail safes as well. So it's like we have like everything that's possible. The number one thing is, if an API provider goes down or they give false data, it destroys the reputation too. So like imagine, CoinGecko giving the wrong price feed, and nobody will use it, right? So like there's a lot of responsibility on everybody to be able to do this, right? So like we make sure our reputation's good, they make sure their reputation good. So it's been pretty good. And we're also picky about our API sources. So like if they don't meet the threshold that we have, we don't use them. So like these are the ones that have been staying up, like 99.99% of the time, correct data. And so like, okay, we've worked with them. So like it is permissionless, but we choose who we decide to aggregate for our safety as well.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So just to check this out really quick, we have parameters. So there's this purchase new plan. It is live right now, but anybody can purchase their own oracles. It's permissionless. But I wanted to talk about deviations really quick and what that all means. So you'll see that there's a 5% deviation, 1% deviation, 0.5, 0.25. This is how accurate or how often you want the price feed to update on chain, right? So right now we have this live with a 0.25% deviation. What does that mean? So like if ETH is $2,000 and we have this at, let's say, a 1% deviation, the next time this is going to update on chain is what's 1% of $2,000? $20. The next time it's going to update on chain is either going to be at 1980 or at 2020. If the price is 2015 on chain, it's still going to be $2,000.
Yeah.
So that's where, like, a little hint about OEV where that's going to come in, but that's the difference in deviations. If you need something more accurate, a little bit more precise, that's when you get a smaller deviation. So, okay, this is $10 deviation. Okay, this is a $5 deviation. So the next price update is going to be 2005 or 1995. That way it's a little bit closer, a little bit tighter on there. But it costs more gas because it's basically updating four times more often than it would on a 1% deviation. So those have different costs. So like for this, you can see this is almost 800 mounts on there to make this, but we have this live. The API3 team keeps this live for any users of the dApp that wants to use the oracles. We make sure this is live on there. But if you wanted to spin up your own, you could. It's permissionless, so you could just purchase it as needed. So you don't have to ask us on there. But let's get our price feed on here. We're going to get our ETHUSD. Let's go ahead and integrate this. And so this right here is the proxy address that you need to use for the price feed. This is basically the ETHUSD price feed. Again, this is the quick snippet of code that we've talked about on the demo here. This is like the very, very basic version with that read data feed where I see the int224 and the iProxy read. We have the much more understandable version of that in the contract. So I'm going to grab this address and go here. I'm just going to go ahead and set my proxy address. So I'm telling, hey, contract, I want to read ETHUSD. I'm going to go ahead and pay that transaction fee to let it know. You could do this in the constructor too, but I just want to make this interchangeable so you can change price feeds to explain, And very cheap. That was 0.006 mount.
Yeah. And maybe in the production level smart contract, you would also import the ownable contract to make this only set by owner, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah, it was there before. You removed it, right?
Yeah, I removed it. Yeah, because we're on the 45 crunch. And so if
I'll go in and set the other proxy address right now.
Oh, so you're coding live, John?
Yeah, he's hacking me, so we can read that data feed. Yeah. So like if we click the read data feed, it's a free read for us. It's just an RPC call.
Okay.
$3,114.16 with a whole bunch of change. It's 18 decimals and the timestamp of when this price feed was updated. And if we go compare against that, let's go back to the main page, 311.4, right? So there it is right there off the top. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy, you know, just quick copy paste this code, grab a price feed from the marketplace, pop in the proxy address, and you got a price feed on your contract. You can use that for whatever you need, borrow lending, you know, any kind of like limit order, whatever, you know, floats your boat on using that price feed.
And this is 18 decimal, right?
Yes.
So you have to, yeah, because I know like other oracles use different decimals, like Chainlink might send you a 10 decimal price feed and something like that. So yeah.
You read my mind. Look, what an awesome segue. So let's say you are building on Mantle, right? And you have this awesome repo, or you have this thing built out for another Oracle, and there's like a new liquid staking token or this new asset that's hot, and the other Oracle can't give you that price feed on there, and API3 has it, right? And so you're like, okay, let me go ahead and get this repo. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this other repo here with another Oracle. Let me go ahead and just put this contract in here, new file, we'll call it other Oracle, not sold. And I'm just going to go ahead and paste it down. We don't need to cover this repo here. But like there's no lie that aggregator v3 interface is probably one of the most popular Oracle reads on there. It's used on like Binance Chain, Verachain. There's just, you know, there's a lot of repos everywhere. And it doesn't match what we look for, right? So if I deploy this out, let me go ahead and just deploy this with a price feed here. I'm going to grab that same price feed. And if we try to do it this way with the ETHUSD, it's just not going to work. So I'm going to deploy it, paste some Mantle, and it won't work. But basically it's giving us a price feed, right? Like that's what we're looking for at the end of the day. And so if we do this data consumer and I get the latest answer, basically I get nothing. It's like, hey, my thing's going to say, hey, it doesn't work. It's a little too big here, but it's basically saying, hey, you suck. It didn't work, right? And so there's a couple of reasons for that. One, it's looking for more information. It's looking for a round ID. It's asking for different variables. Answer started at, timestamp, answered in round. Has a lot of extra data that API3 doesn't use or utilize on there. So just to show you that what kind of data you get, I did it on the side right here so you can see it actually works. So I'm looking for this price feed. This is the round ID that it had. This is on Sepolia testnet. And then the answer that I got at the time for the price of ETH was 310.4 with 32 cents. And it started at this timestamp. And then this is the timestamp it came at. And then it was answered in this round, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to use an adapter to mimic this data, right? Because the only thing that really matters to us for our needs is we need the price and the timestamp. And if we look at the data here, it's like, okay, the price feed is unique. It's 10 decimals. It started at this timestamp. Right. And so the timestamp is the same as it started at. And these answered in rounds is just, it's not important to us. We don't care what round it is. We just need the price feed and the timestamp. Right.
What's the round?
It's basically when it was updated. So like you can go in different rounds to see like historically what the round was.
Okay.
We don't need to do that on chain. You can just check it on the website for us. Like you can look at historically. We don't need to do that on the call. So what we're going to do is an adapter contract. So we have our other Oracle, right? And you know, we don't want to change our source code. We have it audited, or we don't want to refactor our code. It's kind of dangerous to do refactors especially for one price feed. So we have this adapter contract. So let me go ahead and open this up and call it adapter.sold. And I'm going to go ahead and grab this code and we'll break it down piece by piece. And again, using 819, and I'm bringing that same iProxy import from API3, and we're just calling it API3 aggregator adapter. And so when we do our price feeds, we have to be really, really careful about who changes. You know how we're doing like owner and, you know, the ability to change that. But when you're really playing with real money, once you deploy it, you don't want to be able to change it, to be honest. You know, it was more of like, you know, user demo and stuff. Not so we're making this one immutable, right? Because now we have two contracts. So we have our source contract here and we have our price feed contract here. We're adding one in the middle. I wish I had a third hand, but we're adding another one in the middle here that's going to read the data from our API3 price feed and then bring that data back into the smart contract that we need. So we have kind of like this middle contract that's translating the data. So if someone were to change that, it would be disastrous because, you know, this contract, the original contract saying, hey, we're looking for ETHUSD and this is the ETHUSD, but if someone changes it in the middle, it can, you know, destroy everything. So we're making that immutable on there. And so I am just in the constructor setting the address. So instead of the ability to change it with the sec proxy address, it's just in the constructor. So I can only do it once. And now we're going to mimic the data that we are getting from the other Oracle. And we're just going to answer back with all the API3 data plus the extra data. So if we look back on that price feed, let me see, where is that Oracle? We want, you know, round ID, the answer started at timestamp and answered in round data. So we're going to give it just that, right? With a round ID, answer started at, updated at, and answered in round. And so creating this local variable called unconverted answer, because again, we're 18 decimals. And if you look here, it's a 10 decimal format. So we need to change that. So I have this unconverted answer here to be changed. And so same thing, we're going to read our data feed right here. So we're going to read our API3 function. So if we go down here on the bottom, you'll notice something familiar. It has that iproxy.read that returns those two numbers, and it returns an N24 and a UN256. So we're going to read that data feed and return it to our unconverted answer, which is our price and our timestamp. And so now we're going to make sure we match our decimal systems. So we know that is a 10 base. So we're going to go ahead and divide that number out. So we're only going to use the 10 decimals on there from our answer. And we're going to put that to value. And then our answer is going to be what we set when we typecast it here to N256, because they don't use an int224, they use an int256. So we're converting the typecast on there to make sure it matches what they have. And then the timestamp, if we notice here, is the same as the started at. It's basically the same thing. So we're going to match that energy and make sure that our updated at here and the started at are the same. So the timestamp and started at are the same. And then round ID, I'm just throwing in mock data right here. So round ID is this some random round data that I copied and answered in round. Because if we look at the data here, I'm going to zoom that in one more time. Is, you know, that round ID data is the same thing as this answered in round ID data. And it's really not important for our needs on our smart contract. So I'm just throwing it with some dummy data.
So you're just literally just using data that is not relevant to API3, and yeah, that's interesting.
Just throwing it in there.
So the purpose of this is literally just mocking the return type, the return structure of the other Oracle. So if you could, if you had a dApp or a smart contract on Ethereum that utilizes some other Oracle provider, and you want to bring it on Mantle, and that provider is not on Mantle, you can literally do it through the adapter from API.
Exactly. Yes.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. So like it doesn't matter, like if it's another chain and that Oracle does not exist on Mantle, you could still deploy it on Mantle and then use API3 oracles on there.
Lifesaver.
Yeah. So like no need to wait, just use it. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy this adapter again. When we deploy it, it's going to ask for the proxy address. So I'm going to get that ETHUSD as well. So let me go ahead and minimize that, grab that proxy address for ETHUSD again, grab that in there and put it here and deploy it right here. All right, and so our adapter is live, and just I built in this read data feed at public so we can read it. So the contract can read the data feed. You see that it's reading, and we are dumping live. Now we're at 3096, and the timestamp when it was updated. And so now if we look at the latest round data, we can see the data is converting to. And so you see that it has this round data. It's getting the answer here. So it's now matching the format of the other Oracle. So what it needs. So now in the other Oracle, our original smart contract for our DeFi platform or anything, we're going to update the Oracle to the adapter. So it's going to read from the adapter is going to read from the Oracle, and then it's going to return that data. So I'm going to grab the contract address of our deployed adapter, paste it in here, And I'm going to go ahead and update that oracle. Confirm that.
Does the middleman introduce like extra fees, or is that super cheap?
Yeah.
Nope, it's already been done. It's just a read. So it's RPC call, honestly.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And so then if I get my latest answer, now I have data coming into my contract with the right price feed. So we see that, this is the round ID data that I throw here in this dummy data, and it just got updated again, 3104, and then started at the timestamp, and then timestamp that we got it, and the mock data. So now our original contract that was forked, or trying to use an Oracle feed that wasn't provided by the other Oracle, you can start using our feed and then start, get users and, entice users to use your platform. And it's ready to go. I'm going to make that bigger, so a little geriatric. Yeah.
So this contract. So basically, the way you could think about it is that the adapter contract is like a generic contract that could be used among whatever you have on both sides. You can just plug it in, and it would just do the job. And both will call like the adapter contract called the original Oracle price feed, and then your contract will call the adapter, right?
Yes. Yeah. So the adapter contract automatically reads the data feed. So when I request the answer, it calls this contract. The other contract by default will read, and so it'll read the data and then return it back to you. So it's just a one function call. Like, if you were doing a borrow lending and you do deposit, it's going to read when you ask for a borrow amount, it's going to read it automatically. So it's all built into the RPC calls, ready to go, so that you have the most accurate price available to you.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And that's
just to clarify, with no drawbacks in like speed and nothing like that.
In terms of performance, it doesn't do anything different, right?
That's
It's the same.
There have been a ton of people on Mantle that are already using it with this adapter, like live. So no news is good news.
Maybe you mention them because when for example I build an app, I always want to use like the industry standard tool. Maybe you could mention some of the popular dApps or high TVL dApps on Mantle that also utilize API3.
Oh yeah, Init Capital and Mintrist are the number ones that I actually use personally as well. I was like, oh, API3 is hosting it. Let me support them. I'll throw some money in there on there. So yeah, definitely they're on there. We've been talking to a few people that have been using adapters on and off depending on the feeds as liquid staking tokens come on there. So anybody using METH is using our Oracle as well. We were really quick. The beauty of API3's first party Oracle system is we're pretty quick. Because it's first party, we don't have to convince third parties, hey, supply this Oracle feed for us and it's good for you and there's a reason why you want to do it. If they're providing it, we can use it, right? So CoinGecko or any like liquid staking tokens that are really, really hot that have data that's usable. Again, we have to monitor it to make sure there's enough liquidity, for the hacks and stuff. So, but LSTs are becoming very, very popular. And there's like a million popping up every so often based on Lego blocks. So being able to support that is something that we do very quickly. And a lot of people have been coming to API3 for that because we can drop them, they get this adapter up and running, and then they can support that and then use it in their dApp.
And just to mention, Init Capital requires very, very accurate data. And so behind the hood, they use API3. So that should tell you something. And you're right with the kind of trend with LST and LRTs. By the way, Mantle is doing an LRT of its own. I guess you would anticipate it to be live on API3 as well.
Yes, yeah, we are in talks. We already, we're doing everything. BD's handling their thing, integration teams handling their thing. It's a thing of beauty.
We're doing this, the DevRel thing.
Yeah.
And then just, as we have a little bit of time, I don't know if there's any questions and answers, but kind of like a sneak peek into what's going to happen on the next one is, we see how volatile this is, right? Like it was 31.10. We're going on the marketplace here. Things are moving, right? Like it's constantly moving. Like the deviations in price, right? Right now at 3,000, what is 25%, 0.25? If there's like
that's
$5 or something, let's say there was a liquidable position at like 3,114. Let me just check CoinGecko here. What is it saying? White mode. What's going on here? Okay, let's think. That's dumping. Okay. Let's take it back and say we're dumping here. So we're 3107, right? So 3107 right now, but on chain, it's 313, right? And there's someone that I can liquidate at $3,110, right? So in most cases, I got to wait for this thing to update on chain, and then the MEV battle, right? That's where MEV comes in. Like, I want to be the first one to liquidate. I want to do like, I'm going to pay 20 ETH so I can be the first one through like a flash bot or something like that, right? But you can't do that on a layer 2 because it has a sequencer, and depending on the sequencer on the layer 2, it's either first in, first out, or the ability to reorganize. It's kind of, I don't want to say centralized, but it's a little bit more controlled because we're still testing things out. So there is no real way to do a good liquidation system that has supports searchers, right? It's either you kind of shoot your shot and hopefully you go first or not. So OEV allows you to bid the update. So it's like, hey, I see the price here is 3107, and I see the on-chain price is this. I want to pay that fee to update this price Oracle to reflect the latest price on chain. So I want 3107 on chain, so then I can run the liquidation. And that's what OEV is, Oracle extractable value. We are the Oracle. We're trying to extract the value from that update change and be first on there. So you would then
step ahead, like you the step ahead. It allows you to basically know, like you cannot do it right now, but like you just thinking ahead, and then you use it for that reason. But then
correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So like literally you would so say there's a liquidation at the 3110, right? And then you would literally bid for the price to be updated, and say the price on CoinGecko is like below that the liquidation price already, right? And then you just liquidate that, and so you spend the money for the bid, but then you earn from the liquidation reward, and that's how
Right.
so you can
the
actually yeah.
Oh, sorry to cut you up. But the big difference is, instead of the MEV, instead, like that, all that ETH goes to the validator, right? So like when you spend something on like a flash bot or anything, that goes to the validator, and searcher gets what's left over. With OEV, what you bid, 90% of that goes back to the DApp. So like, let's say your net capital and there's a liquidation, right? They have to pay a 5% reward for the liquidations to keep their platform healthy. They lose that value, right? They get nothing out of it other than keeping their platform healthy. So now, like, they basically bleed out value over time anytime there's fluctuability in the market, right? So like, if it's going up and down, people get liquidated. Instead of having $10 million in TVL, now they have 9,995, losing 5% at a time, depending on liquidations. Well, with this, when someone bids to update the price feed, instead of that going to the validator, it goes back to the DApp. So now dApps have kind of like a newfound value to either reward stakers or fund public goods or do whatever they want. Because instead of bleeding that value, now they've earned it back. So they can do whatever they want. So now, because of this initial war of like everybody has the same dApp and nobody has anything very, very different, now you have this newfound value where you can entice users to do that. Maybe you reward the stakers if there's a liquidation, or something creative to make yourself different and stand out. And you don't have to do anything special as a user. All you have to do is use API3 oracles. And then basically our lingo is oracles that pay you, right? So like, if your dApp gets liquidated and you're using API3 oracles and someone bid to do this, that value that they bid goes back to you as a dApp.
Yeah. Man, that's pretty. I didn't know about that either. Like, that's good. That's when we do this workshop, I guess. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah,
And
but you
the
guys
next
also
workshop. Go ahead.
yeah, you guys also have a lot of other tools as well. So, for example, you mentioned QRNG for a bit, right? So, for those who don't know, that's kind of like the VRF of the standard name for this is VRF. But my question is, what's with the name? Of course, Quantum is super cool, but is there anything that you can mention in terms of like how it's different from other VRF?
Yes. Well, it's just a random number, right? But the original reason that we had the quantum random number was we work with the Australian National University, where they have this actual huge like vacuum machine that theoretically uses quantum mechanics, that has like these balls that come down that gives true randomness. So like, they're actually using quantum computing in order to create these random numbers for real randomness. And so basically we adopted that system to our random number generator, right? We have three different versions of randomness with the ANU, quintessence, and another one. I can't remember the name. So we have 3 versions of random numbers that you can use from each one on there. So like, you don't have to use one source of randomness. You can use any source that you want, or you can use all 3 in case one goes down. You can have a backup failsafe for another one. So like, in case one service goes bad, you can relay over to the next one to give you another random number. So it's not like one source of truth. Again, it's totally open, your choice to use, permissionless. So.
Yeah, the randomest random number you can have, basically,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like you can go back and prove where your source came from, basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
From a photon hitting another photon, and
Yes. Basically, yeah. So that's where the quantum comes in. I was like, why don't we just use random numbers? But like, it made sense. It makes sense for me once you explain it. But I was like, just say random number. But it's cooler to say quantum.
No, I love it. I love it,
Yeah.
and it's it's accurate, right? It's
Yeah.
quantum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think. Do you have anything to add? So you gave us a little sneak peek for the next workshop. This workshop went amazing, and it's about time to wrap up. So I guess I'll give you the stage to say some last words if you want.
Yes,
Before
I
we wrap up.
actually do want to mention one more thing for those that are trying to copy things along with the Oracle. So if you're using 8.19 and you're using Remix, you're gonna have to import it. And if you want to use the OpenZeppelin library,
Mm.
if you're gonna do this, it's in the repo at 4.93, but you have to do at 4.93 by default. If you do use the contracts directly, it downloads V5. And so V5 has the push 0, has the Shanghai fork in it, and the libraries have changed a bit. So like you're going to get this error right here. So you want to make sure to use 4.93. That is in the repo example on there as well. But for Remix, you have to specifically say 4.93, and then go ahead and is ownable on here. I didn't know if we were going to have enough time to explain it. Not in is, but just wanted to make sure I throw that out there for people that want to play on Remix that don't want to fork the repo. That way, you know that you're using the right version on there for 8.19. If you use 8.20 and above, feel free to use OpenZeppelin V5. It totally works. Everything works on there. But just in case, you're trying it on different chains or doing it on different places that support push 0 or don't support it, I'm doing it to make sure it's fail safe for everybody on there. So it's there.
All right.
That's cool. Very
Perfect.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have the QR code of the demo. Like we put all the when we send the recording, we put all the link, of course. And one thing we want to say, this is being like now live through the Mantle handle on Twitter. But if you're a developer and you're super interested in following all our stuff, they are really targeting developers. Please, the QR code of the dev community is there. Like we have two handles. The main handle is the one we are in now, but the one for devs is that one. And we also have a TG group and we have a Discord. So please don't hesitate to if you have any question or anything there. And yeah, I think it's time to wrap up. Billy, I'll see you in a few days in ECC Brussels. So any dev who is around and wants to do, of course, anything with API3, but anything about Mantle, if you are building something, like Billy himself loves it. So like, says a lot about what we do, right?
Yeah. I'm in the trenches, guys. I
Yeah.
love hacking. Like you'll see me at the hackathon. I won't be able to stay all the way through Sunday, but
Yeah.
I will probably be there Sunday morning when they do the submission. So I'll probably be hacking because I won't be able to sit around and do nothing.
Yeah.
So like I love this stuff. Like that's how I make my examples. That's why I like deep diving and like
Yeah.
showing people how to be a searcher. So like because I like it. Like it's so interesting to me. And it's not too many times that you see tutorials where you can actually ultimately at the end of the workshop make some money. Sometimes you don't have to be the best as long as you're first. So
Yeah,
there it
exactly.
is.
And also, like, it's one of the best part of being a dev role is that
Yeah.
when people are building on your stuff, but like in the way that you didn't think, okay, that one is very interesting, right? They're
Yeah.
doing something a bit different there, and is and that is really one of the cool part of the job for sure.
I love it.
John, you have anything you want to add?
Yeah. Well, Billy, I will not meet you in a couple of.
He has a huge FOMO, and but
That's,
you'll be at the next one.
I don't know what to do with myself. It's huge FOMO, but it's okay. Okay. I hopefully I'll see you in Bangkok.
Yeah.
Uh, yep. So yeah, thank you for today. It was very, very awesome. Please follow the links on the screen. They're all over the screen, so you can just follow any of them. And yeah, see you guys at the next one. Thank you guys.
Yeah, next one.
Yeah.
See ya.
Thank you guys. Have a good one.